Ladies and gentlemen, a migration tsunami of unparalleled dimensions. A great flood of refugees incomparable to anything in history before. With this prediction, I went into public in the last annual forecasts, and I received lots of emails of people who have been quite preoccupied by this. And so I want to put some things into the right light of this prediction. I want to reveal what's behind this astrological leitmotif of the Great Flood and how it will bring us as one mankind forward together if we look at this development on long term. So please stay in, watch this video until the very end. Please also share it with your friends and with your family, because it's so important to know for everybody. Yeah, this chart here shows the big picture of the transition from the old Earth Age, the capitalistic consumer society, to the new Air Age, the idealistic knowledge and spirit society. And we see here that this shift took place around 2020, marked by the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn at 0 degree of Aquarius. So this was now the final step into the Air Age. But of course, these developments last much longer because it's long-term developments. And the first 5 years from 2020 to 2024, I always called the Sturm and Drang period of the Earth Age, which could be quite badly translated as the storm and stress period. And now in 2025 we have this big constellation of the Katalypse with Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, the four giants of our collectiveness, go into active, into outer signs, and they form this power triangle with each other. And so now we shift from the storm and stress period of the new Air Age to the acceleration period. So developments, they don't go linear anymore like we had in the old Earth Age. They go exponential, they go rocket-like, they shoot into the sky, they take place in very short periods of time, because air also means a much larger amount of complexity, a much larger amount of interconnectiveness. Yeah, so we have these bubble effects that themes, structures, or organizations, or also mental topics, they grow immensely fast in a short period of time, but they also can collapse in the same short period of time. And our old systems from the old Earth Age, of course, they are not prepared for such a new zeitgeist, because they are slow and rigid and structured in a very logical and very well organized way. They have been very good in the old Earth Age to build up material wealth, to make our societies work strong together. But now with this new zeitgeist of air, of course, these old systems, they get dysfunctional. They don't work anymore. They cannot cope with these rapid, radical developments and disruptions anymore. And so now in 2025 we will face an immense Cesura. Yeah, so nothing will be the same anymore. The Cesura will be as extreme as we had in 2020 with the Corona period. Or even if you want to compare with this shift in the late 1980s, early 1990s, when the Iron Curtain fell, when communism collapsed and broke down, when the Berlin Wall fell. So this is this dimension of extremeness that we can expect. So it won't be, let's say, the largest Big Bang in the history of the universe, but it will be in this dimension. And so our old systems, we cannot just prolong them with small, little, tiny reforms and small changes here and there. This is what politicians are doing or trying for the last couple of years. This just doesn't work anymore. You need a radical cut. You need a radical change of our systems. Yeah, so this great flood, which is the leitmotif of 2025, this helps us that all these large walls and columns and fundaments of security and of safety, they have become an illusion, and so they are cleansed away. They are purged away by this big flood, and migration is just one of many different manifestations. As I said in my annual forecast, it's like the Great Flood is like a formation of many waves in waves in waves in waves, many floods in floods, and they all go in different directions, seem very chaotic within each other, but in the end, the target of this wave, of this great flood, is always the same: to free us from these old structures. So for all of us who are very open, very future-oriented, this will be kind of a huge liberation, yeah. And those who are, let's say, very scary, those who want to grab securities, of course, for these people it will be quite a hard time. But in the end, if we want to have a new security on long term, this only works if we get rid of our old illusions of security. Yeah, and one part of this is migration. So the radical events I've already mentioned in my annual forecast, yeah, like the natural disasters, for example, like the rise and fall of empires, like all the wild cards I mentioned. This will lead to immense floods of migrations and of refugees. As I already said, this doesn't necessarily have to be the old migration waves that politicians were struggling with in the last couple of years. It also could be the other way around, like for example in the US, if President Trump keeps some of his promises, then probably huge migration waves might go back to the south. Or in Europe, many migrants came through all these disasters and the wars and the civil wars in Syria and of course also in the Ukraine. Millions of refugees came, and if now in the next 1-2 years these countries start to stabilize, if peace is returning to these countries, then maybe also many of the refugees will return to these countries. Or it also could be completely new regions where this happens, probably in Africa, probably in the Middle East. If we look at all the surroundings of Israel, what is happening there at the moment. So, wherever these migration centers, epicenters might pop up, one thing is for sure: it will concern the whole globe, it will concern the whole world, similar as we had this with Corona in 2020 and similar as we had this in 1989 with the fall of the Berlin Wall and then with the collapse of communism. So in the beginning, this great flood will cause fear and insecurity among many of us, especially in those countries at the very peak of the global power pyramid, especially in the US and in Europe. On the other hand, isn't it just fair that power and resources spread more equally across our globe? So for all those countries that have been at the very bottom of the power pyramid, for all those neglected, for all those suppressed and oppressed, for them it will be a huge liberalization. Because in the end, with these enormous challenges of the forthcoming years, with all those disasters that will arise, with climate change and all these topics and issues. We will only be able to solve these as one mankind. So the great flood will prepare our consciousness to be one mankind. Especially during the past years, I mean, it started already with the last migration wave in Europe in 2015, with the election of Donald Trump right afterwards in the US, with Corona, then 2020, 21, 2022, we had a huge division of society. And during all these years, when all these different opinions have been so separated and have been fighting so much against each other, I never broke up with anybody. Yeah, my contacts, my customers, my friends, they reach from the ultra left-winged to the ultra right-winged. They reach from the conservatives to very progressive people. They reach from academics and scientists to mystics and esoterists, for example, or from poor yoga teachers up to very, very rich investors. Yeah? And I want to share one experience that I had with all these very, very different and multifaceted kinds of people and mindset. Nobody of them wants to do anything bad. Yeah, everybody tries his very best to keep mankind alive, to keep mankind progressing further. But all of them, all of us, only have small fragments of reality. Everybody of us has just a very small view on the all, on what's going on from the meta perspective. And to solve all these critical future issues, we need all these different points of views. Yeah? But we don't need them to fight each other. We need them to make cooperations. We need them to complement each other. And this is what the Great Flood is going to teach us. Also, if we look at the developments of the past years, I just saw this in my years as an astrological business consultant. I've started my company for astrological business consulting in 2014. And in the first years, the typical questions have been, how can I fulfill my talents better? How can I find people for my team that fit best into it? How can we bring great projects further? How can we spread glee and pleasure among our customers? Yeah. But since 2020, the first and only, sometimes only question is, how can I secure my property? How can I make my money to get more and more and more? So greed, egoism, this extreme money and safety and security thinking, this has become overwhelming in the past couple of years. First, because people had this corona shock and they said, oh, somehow I have to secure my future, somehow I have to protect what I've reached in my life. It shouldn't lose all its value. But now it seems that it kind of got a kind of self-dynamics. As if the old sclerotic fingers of the Earth Age keeps us on the ground. Those fingers, they don't want us to go up into the air, to go up into this community feeling, to go up into this creative thinking. They want to keep us down and to tie us to our possession, to our material thinking. So in my astrological business consulting, not just the investment shark came to me to ask me about money issues. Even the yoga teacher did this, even the physiotherapist did this, even the nurse did this. So where has our togetherness gone? Where has the depths of our souls gone, our creative powers? Where have those values gone? And so we need this great flood to free us from this very, very old-fashioned mindset. Yeah, and it will help us also to rediscover all these old precious values from art, from culture, from creativity, from social unity. Yeah? To free us from this sclerotic ossification that we faced during the last years of the reign of the Earth age. Yeah, and of course, some developments, they make people afraid, like artificial intelligence, for example. Yeah, will artificial intelligence take away all our jobs? On the same, sometimes even in the same discussions on televisions, the next question is, what can we do against the shortage of skilled laborers? That both of these things fit together very well. Hardly anybody recognizes so far. And of course, it's preoccupying that you even can clone creative processes, that an artificial intelligence can paint pictures or write texts of the quality of a real professional creator. And I guess everybody of us knows some people who think they are now very, very ingenious writers or painters or whatever, just because they tell an AI to paint a picture or to write a story for them. But in the end, this is not what counts. Because artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, augmented reality, all these air age technologies that are now changing our lives with such a tremendous speed, they all are just surveys of this shift from Earth to air age. Yeah? Because in the end, what's in the background is a revolution of our mind, is a revolution of our consciousness. And I see this whenever I talk about my 12 astrological Megatrends. On my German YouTube channel, thousands of people have watched how I explain these new megatrends from the air age, and it's always very funny because half of the people say, oh, this is so preoccupying and this is really a horror scenario for the future. And the other half, watching exactly the same video, they say, oh, great, this will be paradise and I'm looking forward to this future so much. And I was asking myself, how can this happen? They both see the same video, they both see the same content, but they perceive it from a completely different perspective. And then I realized, okay, like I've now here tried to visualize for you in this chart, we have here the 12 megatrends of the air age, and if you watch these with the consciousness and from the perspective of the old Earth age, then developments like AI, like digital weapons, digital values, like deglobalization, like decentralization, they will make you very much afraid. You only have the fear that you are going to lose something. But if you watch the same megatrends from the perspective with the consciousness of the new air age, yeah, then you see, great, finally I get those tools to free my mind, to free my creativity, to free my human values. Yeah, finally I can focus on my ideas and on my emotions and on all these social topics, and I'm not just loaded and overcrowded with this repetitive, boring material work from the old days. So what will happen with our consciousness after or during this great flood? We will see an immense increase of phenomena that so far was labeled with words like telepathy, like mediumship, like clairvoyant, like energetics. Of course, these are very old-fashioned esotainment terms. But I'm sure in the next years, in the next decades, science will more and more discover these fields and will find own future terms for these phenomena. And out of this, a new society will grow. A society where four separated things that we separated during the Earth Age, will reunite. We will see a new unity between science on one hand, spirituality on the next hand, art as the third component, and finally economics. So all these four, science, spirituality, art and economics, they will form a new unity. They will build bridges where no connections have been before. And this is how our economy, how our society will work in the next decades. And in these fields, no AI and no computer, no algorithm will be able to beat our human feeling, our human perception, our human consciousness. And this is what will be so radical new in the forthcoming years. So on one hand, we will see the great flood manifesting in quite material ways, like these migration tsunamis, like these natural disasters, like these floodings, like these climate extremes, like these revolutions and counter-revolutions, like these waves of spiritual warriors, like all these wild cards that I've mentioned in my annual forecast. But in the end, this great flood will be a great flood of our mind, of our consciousness, of our spirit. And this is what counts in the end. So let's go into this great future together. Please spread the word among your friends, among your families. Share this video with everybody you love, and we will go this path together as one mankind. Thank you so much.
Marching always onwards, all the elders must die. Storming into morning, leave the dust walls all behind. Rotten and forgotten will they sink from the skies and fade to shades as they die.